Hey everyone, welcome to the Mindset Playground, where you're going to get your daily dose of positivity. And I'm your host, Luann Hunt. And I am so excited that you're able to join me here today because I have such a good friend who came to play with me on the playground. Now, she's really cool, and I can't wait for you to get to know her because she, as well as myself, we both have podcasts and we both know that they are near and dear to our hearts. So, without further ado, I'm going to introduce her. Her name is Michelle. And Michelle, welcome to the Mindset Playground. How are you doing today?
I'm doing so well. I feel so honored to be here today. Hello to all the listeners.
Yes, and I'm honored that you took time out of your busy schedule to come and play with me on the playground. So let's get started. So tell me, Michelle, because I know that we're both kind of in the same following, in the same groups, in the same courses, and we have so much in common as we found out. And so, what was it that led you to begin down this path of personal development?
So I would say in the year 2020, I had a spiritual awakening, and it was a very potent year for a lot of people because of the pandemic. But it was very significant for me as well because that was the year I received my master's degree and I achieved my biggest goal at the time. And it was during the pandemic to become a speech language pathologist. And so as a little girl, I always knew that school was important, or that was my programming, where if I went to school, then I would be successful and I would be able to take care of myself. And I found myself in a position of chasing that goal. It became everything to me, but not in a way where I saw myself one with it. I saw it outside of me. So when I achieved that goal in 2020, and it was the pandemic, and I moved back home to do my internships, I actually felt empty. I felt like, who am I? What am I doing? For the first time, I looked inward because I received everything I thought I wanted, but at the same time, I was like, who am I? And what does this all really mean? So that really got me to that spiritual awakening, that journey. I downloaded TikTok, and it brought me to this new algorithm of spirituality, which was something brand new to me. And so I ended up getting a psychic reading done, and I never got something like that done before. It was something that was out of my norm, out of my comfort zone. But really, what it guided me towards was this healing journey and looking inward. And during that path, my family started to open up more spiritually. I grew up Catholic, so I grew up going to Catholic school in a Catholic environment. So I went home one day because I met a friend actually in real life. I was at Epcot, and she told me she could connect with spirit, she could connect with past loved ones. And for some reason, I just believed her. And it was like this big moment where I went home and I told my family and I said, there's more to this life. And because I had so much belief in that, and the spiritual awakening started to happen, my sister's gift activated, and she ended up seeing my grandfather in full body form. So basically, there was evidence that we are more than just this physical being. So the spiritual awakening was this healing journey, realizing I'm more than just this physical being. I am spiritual. And so that's kind of how it all started back in 2020. And so much has happened since then, but that's the beginning process of the awakening.
Well, I have to agree with you that 2020 was definitely a pivotal year for many people because I too, like everyone else, was on lockdown. And, kind of in that whole 5 year period, my life has completely shifted and changed to a total different direction. And it was during that time well, it was in 2022 actually, that I started getting into certifying in personal development. And my story is this, that when I went to a workshop with Jack Canfield, I was so touched and so blown away by that. And all I could think of was, why doesn't everybody know about this? Why doesn't everybody, know that they can feel better, know that there's more out there to life than, working and making a living and just coming home every night type thing.
Exactly.
And yeah, so yeah, I totally get what you're talking about. So now, so you decided at what point to maybe take this to the masses?
Yeah. So that was the beginning of my journey. And as I was doing the healing, right? Healing means basically you're activating your truth and it's a byproduct of what's really going on. So I started to manifest. I started to create a life that I never had before naturally because I was looking inward for the first time. So after that 2020 awakening in 2021, I went to Hawaii, which was a dream trip to Maui, to Oahu. See, this wasn't part of my norm, but I started to manifest travel. I ended up buying a condo, moving in with my fiance, getting engaged, traveling. So all these opportunities, my lifestyle, everything started to shift the more I looked inward. And I realized that how powerful the laws of the universe were because the evidence was flowing in. And then I hired my own personal life coach and I got deeper into the work and I realized in 2023 I went to her event and I just had this moment where I started to cry and I was like, I am a coach. I meant to do this. I meant to speak and I meant to share my truth. And as this was going on, my spiritual gifts started to open up. My intuition, my awareness, and my connection to source, to God, and connecting to this higher version of me, my higher self, and redirecting myself into a new paradigm. And then I discovered Bob Proctor actually only last year, last summer. So a lot has unraveled for me. And in 2024, that's when I launched my business, Prosperity and Beyond, which is my coaching business now. And I launched my first workshop and really around manifestation and really getting more into the mindset and bridging both together because everything's energy, everything is frequency, and becoming one with our vision, one with my vision, moving forward in that coaching space and personal development space of speaking and being heard and reaching people. So.
That's wonderful. So tell me about your workshop. What was that all about? You said it was built around manifestation.
Yeah, so
So,
it's really stemmed on that was back in 2024, and I would do them on Zoom and I would market them through TikTok. I was organically attracting like-minded people who are ready to look inward. And I create guided meditation. So what I do is I teach the laws of the universe. I channel higher consciousness to get people into the frequency to help build their self-image. And then I help them apply it. So with meditation, with tools, with self-image practices. So I like to not just speak and teach, but to implement tools so people can really connect to who they are and feel it.
and how did you do that as far as the actual workshop goes? Did you just do meditation or did you
Yeah,
have
no, I
exercises or
teach so I go through practices and where I teach the laws of the universe, law of attraction, and really developing a relationship with yourself and the principles of the different laws and understanding it on an intellectual level, but I understand that just because we know things at an intellectual level doesn't mean we're implementing it, doesn't mean we're changing our paradigm. So the first part of my workshops are usually more teaching and understanding the principles and getting into the understanding on the intellectual level and then bridging that gap into feeling it, meditating, affirmations, self-image practices. So it's combining both. To me, I would go and listen to certain people and I would be gaining all this information and I wasn't seeing a change because part of the change is doing that inner work and giving them the exercises in order to implement that. And meditation is actually one of the biggest things that changed my life and one of the things I do in every workshop. And usually at the end, because after you're in a meditative state, you're just so relaxed. You're not going to be taking in the information the same way. So,
absolutely. And I love that. And I think that was one of the things that was so cool when we started talking is that we were really connecting because I've done a lot of that work as well. And so we both, I think, have an appreciation for how important that work is. So let's kind of branch off into that a little bit and explain to the audience what it is, why should we do this? Why do we do this? And I know that part of the learning is they always say if you really want to learn something, to teach it to someone else. And I think that that's, see, look at your face light up. I think that
Yeah,
that's
actually, I
where,
learned that in college because my learning style is different. I grew up with more ADHD, so my focus was kind of over the place. But once I learned my learning style, which was teaching, I would get together in grad school. We get groups together, and I would teach it, and then in that way, I was learning it. But I think, like as Bob Proctor says, the power of repetition, and that's really where this reprogramming of the subconscious mind is not just seeing it one time, but over and over again. And that's how we really instill new beliefs, new patterns, and a new frequency that becomes more a natural state. So meditation is really important because it connects you to your intuition. It connects you to the present moment. And it allows you to connect to the all-knowing part of you. And this is the part of you that guides you into creating your dream life, because all that prosperity, all the love, all the abundance is actually within us. So when we can slow down and connect to this higher frequency, then we take inspired action from that knowing, from that intuitive drive, and that's inspired action. So this is why doing the inner work is so important, because you can become more in tune with who you really are, so you can create through that authentic frequency, which is the most powerful version of you, is the authentic version of you, who is unapologetically yourself and says no when you want to say no and says yes when you want to say yes. But in order to show up as that version of you, you have to know who you are. And that's why the workshops and doing this inner work is so important, and why I feel so called to keep showing up. As I show up for others, I'm actually showing up for myself. And we're both growing together. It's all a divine mirror.
yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And you seem to kind of connect with the people that you're supposed to connect with. I don't know
Exactly.
how it works, but it does.
It does. And that's part of the laws of the universe. And surrendering to the moment and allowing yourself to just be, and the opportunities do really come in. But I think the more you are authentic, the more you follow your intuition, that's when you're a magnet to what you're supposed to be, to who's supposed to be in your reality. So like we connected because I followed my intuition to join the program that we're both in. And then I decided to comment and show up and be in that frequency, and then we just co-creating. Co-creating is huge. That's actually one thing I do in my meditations. I create personalized guided meditations to help people tune into their dream life and visualize what they want here and now. And it's co-creating because I ask a series of questions, and they get the opportunity, which is an amazing exercise, to write out everything they want in present tense and see themselves there through writing. And then I create a meditation so that they can listen to it with like the binaural beats or high frequency music, and really tune into that version of them so they can impress it into their subconscious mind. So that's another thing I do as a coach. But I think everybody should be doing that, really asking themselves the question, if there was no lack or limitation, what do I want? That's the biggest question you could ask yourself all the time, because we're breaking through that terror barrier every day when we ask ourselves that question and normalize it. And then we ask again, and we keep going. Basically, the name of my business, Prosperity and Beyond. We're tapping into that frequency.
So, can I just ask you about this and see what your opinion is on it? Now, for example, we talked a lot about that big, powerful goal setting that on our last call with Brian Proctor, and it was really important and to get into all of that and getting into, like you said, that frequency and really focusing on that goal.
Mhm.
So, the question that I have for you is, do you find that when you're focusing on something, like, say, for example, that one class that we had with Brian, then others just kind of like fall in front of your face? It's like you don't expect it. So, what I mean by that is, I went on to another call after that, the one that I shared with you, and I said, you're not going to believe this, but out of the blue, the topic was about your big C goal.
Mhm.
And I was so shocked because I had been kind of going back and forth about something that I'm working on. And, thanks to you, you helped me see it a lot clearer. And thanks to this call as well and Brian's call, it just like became that much clearer. Would you agree with that?
I agree so much because that's really bringing into the power of what you focus on is what you're going to receive. And when you do the inner work, the clarity is going to come through because you're asking yourself the right questions. You're tapping into what do I want? And I think when we first did that exercise, I was looking at the logical side of it. And Bob Proctor really is like, we're not here to be logical. Logical means what everyone else is doing, and that's not what your intuition's telling you. And I feel like the type C goal is the goal that scares you, but also inspires you. And when you say it out loud, it just feels your heart. And it's really asking that question, if there was no lack or limitation, what would I want? What would that end result be? And so many of us feel disconnected from it, like we're separate from it. And when we can see ourselves there and be one with that and believe it, because it's not just the ego that runs that, it's the heart, it's the desire, it's our soul purpose. So when we step into that soul purpose and we ask ourselves the why we want it, it's our divine mission why we're here. That's what the type C goal is. It's our divine mission of why we are here and believing it and being one with it. And when you start to see yourself one with it, you start to attract people who support that goal and we rise together. And there's no competition. There's only more than enough. There's only overflow. There's only creative energy that we're able to tap into. And we're not meant to do it alone. And that's why I love like it's the mindset playground that you have here. And because it's about having fun, it's about enjoying life, it's about experiencing it all and collaborating and coming together. I know with Napoleon Hill, he talks about a mastermind, but when people come together, we're raising consciousness. And that means we're expanding our heart space and then we're tapping into unlimited potential together, one consciousness as one. So.
Yeah, that's
I'm
so true.
channeling, by the way. Sometimes that's a new thing. Maybe not everyone knows what channeling is, but if you see a difference in my energy from the beginning to now, I'm tapping more into my higher self and I'm just allowing it to flow. And that's one of my gifts is to channel.
So let's talk about that because that's wonderful. And I think that that's great. So, how did you get into, did you just realize that you are able to channel? What happened the first time that you channeled? I'd be
Um,
kind of scared. Who
I
is that?
know it's different. It's different. I really got into Abraham Hicks' work and I would listen to her. And at first, when I started listening to her, I didn't know she was channeling. I had no idea. And I've been to 3 of her workshops, but it really came naturally. And it comes through a space where it's different that I'm not channeling someone else. So I have my spirit team, I have my spirit guides. Bob Proctor is actually one of my spirit guides, but I'm channeling my higher self. So I tap into more of the all-knowing part of me. I kind of surrender and allow it to flow. And it's part of my gifting, but it really got activated when I started to do my meditations because I create guided meditations. The ones for the personalized of your dream life, I half plan, half channel. So I plan it because I'm creating your dream life with all the details. So that part's planned, but it's about surrendering and being in the moment. And I just felt called that when I create my meditations, I can't plan it, I can't write it out, I can't script it because it's like it's speaking from the heart, it's speaking from the higher vibration. So I'm not always channeling, but the meditations really got me into that energy and practicing it and tuning in. And I meditate myself too as well. There's a meditation center that's near me that I went to back in 2022. I started meditating over there. And actually, I mean, in our program, they talk a lot about meditation, but Abraham Hicks, the reason why she was able to connect was because she meditated every day for 6 months. And then she was able to connect with her higher consciousness. But everybody has their higher self. Everybody has a higher consciousness. Everybody has their connection to their inner being that they can channel. And it's really your intuition and that awareness that comes through. So the more you choose yourself, the more you let go of the outcome, right? Because so many of us are focused on the outcome. Where is it? Where is it? The more you can tune into the present. And that's where our power resides, is right here, right now.
Wow, that's so great. And that's such a great explanation of it because I know many people listening to this obviously they're listening to this because they have an interest in it. They are trying to maybe work on themselves, but there might be somebody who stumbles across it and wants to hear what we have to say, and they're not really sure if this stuff is real or not. And I think that that's the an interesting part of all of this. And I'm going to give you an example. One of my very best friends, I've always been into this. I've always been into meditation and, like self improvement, self development. And she's kind of like, well, it's woo woo. She's more down to earth, right? She's
Mhm.
very down to earth. Wonderful person, great friend of mine because we're like the yin and yang. But I said to her, why don't you just take a look, like just open yourself up because she was going through a rough time personally. I said, why don't you just open up to the idea that you might feel better if you were to, just start incorporating some of these things. And I started giving her a little bit of coaching, and now she's completely hooked. She's like, I said, do you feel better like after you do some of these exercises or when you start thinking a different way? She's like, yeah, I just feel so much lighter and so much better. So it's interesting that this stuff does come up for us. And, that's exactly what I would tell somebody who says to me, why do you do all that? So what do you think?
Well, I used to have a fear of showing up. I used to have a fear that I was so different because when you get into this personal development work, you are different. You're not born to be like everyone else. And when you start to do this, you realize this is who I am because you are doing the inner work. So, really getting out of your comfort zone, breaking through that terror barrier, speaking your truth, telling your story. These are all things I had to normalize in my life. I used to be afraid to show up as this version of me. I didn't used to be spiritual. I didn't used to know about law of attraction. I didn't meditate. I don't even know if I would be friends with the version of who I was back in 2018. Not because we wouldn't get along, it's just I'm just such a different person and I know so much more of who I am. But you can never go wrong with getting to know yourself, falling in love with yourself, and getting to a better feeling, and really being aware of how you think and how you feel. It's just falling in love with yourself so that we can give more of who we are to the world. And there is this woo-woo aspect, but what's beautiful about the personal development community, it can be worded in so many different ways with what resonates for that person. And the right people will come in with what resonates for them. So never feel like, should I hide this version of me? I used to want to hide certain versions of me so that, oh, everyone will like me. But we're not here to like act based on what everyone wants. We're here to speak from the heart. And this is what's going to elevate the collective to bring more love and authenticity into the world. I think the word authenticity is really coming strong for me right now. It's the next layer of just being yourself and being myself and not worrying about what other people think, and because when we do that, we dim our light. And so it's really stepping into that light by just being it and allowing yourself to fall in love with yourself.
Well, one of the things that I'd like to add with that is the fact that you feel you feel so much better about yourself. And what I mean by that is like there let's face it, we all run into things that make us feel, not 100% at our best. And maybe, maybe it's your family, maybe it's your friends, maybe it's your job, maybe it's something that you're going through. But I'm finding that when I work on myself and dig deep into my things, that I can handle outside situations better. So it doesn't bother me to be around the family. It doesn't bother me to be at a certain job. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
that's what I'm finding.
You're seeing
So
the power within yourself. So it's not out there, it's not in the family, it's not in the job, it's you. So you're walking one with that power and you're not letting the outside circumstance dictate what you think up here. And the power of perspective. That's what that inner journey is all about. So that's so powerful.
yeah, and it really does work. So anybody who might be going through something, I would strongly suggest, many people say, well, come back to God, or you
Mhm.
might hear something where somebody had a horrible situation where, I don't know, maybe they were incarcerated or whatever. And they always say, well, they found God. Well, I think that that's exactly what they're talking about, is the fact that they found themselves.
Yeah, well, the darkness actually can propel us into the light. So the contrast shows us what we don't want. So we know what we do want and we can move in that direction. And so many blessings have entered my life since understanding law of attraction, starting my business, getting engaged, traveling, so many different things. But the gratitude is enhanced, which is my superpower, gratitude, and everyone else listening, because of the contrast. And sometimes we get so that's when the spiritual awakening happened for me, when I was in the most darkest place in my life, or one of the darkest places. I had to reach rock bottom and be like, who am I? What am I doing? What's going on? And we start to look at life through a different lens. And that's our power, when we can move forward in our truth. So
Yeah, that's so important. So what's next for you?
I am focusing on my podcast. So I am the host of the podcast Prosperity and Beyond, where I'm interviewing personal development leaders and people in the spiritual community. Also, I speak on there too, and I channel and I teach on there as well. And it's all about tapping into a higher vibration. My goal is just to speak my truth and to get this vibration of authenticity out there, and to continue to do the inner work and believe in myself and my type C goal. So
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I know that you're working on your website and your online courses.
yes.
So,
So I'm developing an online course. It's called Prosperity and Beyond. And right now it's going to be a hybrid between live coaching and online. So that's in the works right now. And I am opening up back my one-on-one coaching. So back in the day, I was working one-on-one, doing workshops, making meditations. But I'm going to be relaunching that and reopening that to the collective, the public.
well, that's great. And how about a book? Do you see a book in your future?
My intuition says yes. Um, and it's a channeled book, yes. I do see a book coming in the future, and I've been told that I will. But I
That's
haven't really
wonderful.
talked about my relationship with Bob Proctor, and I know that's really what drew us together.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's all interesting how everything's coming together right now. Last year, I connected with Bob Proctor by listening to The Secret, and I connected with him on a spiritual level. So that's where this is different. I just feel called to share this. And so, because I felt crazy that I connected with him and I felt his energy. And when I connected with him, I got a reading done, and I've had multiple past lives with Bob Proctor. And basically, what I feel called to do is to share prosperity consciousness. So that's why the name of my podcast is Prosperity and Beyond. But it's not just through words, it's through frequency, it's through vibration, it's through authenticity, it's through the I am presence. And what's interesting, the reason why I want to share it is because it brought me into this program. I didn't even realize that I would be working with Brian Proctor. I didn't realize that it would be this intimate. I didn't realize everything starts to unfold when you follow your intuition. So when I was first going to apply to this program, Proctor's Principles, I had some doubts because I quit my 9 to 5. I don't know if I mentioned that. As a full-time speech therapist, I went part-time to go all in on my business. So I was shifting the paradigm, and I had some fears about money and the money paradigm. And I'm getting married this year, so that's another manifestation. So what's interesting is you could have all these manifestations coming in, and the power of perspective, whether you view it as the most amazing thing in the world, or, oh, I don't know because I'm paying this, or like you could get in your own way. So when I made that decision, I was kind of like, should I not? I'm getting married this year. I just quit my job, but my heart knew. So the reason why I'm sharing this is because follow your heart, listen to your intuition. It's going to guide you. And this is where the opportunities and the doors are going to unlock. This is why I'm on this podcast right now. It's probably the reason why I even restarted my podcast. Get plugged in, get into the frequency, surround yourself with like-minded people, and follow that intuition because it's going to lead you to where you're supposed to be. And everything happens in divine time, and you'll know, act on it. So that's where the action comes in from that inner knowing. So that's what I wanted to share.
Oh, that's wonderful. And I know that it's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing for both of us because, well, not that it's going to be, it already is, but there's more to come.
Mhm. There's
Would you
definitely,
agree?
I definitely agree. I can feel it, and I'm so proud of us, and I'm so proud of you. And we're showing up. We're showing up, and this is what the world needs. And yeah.
It does. You're right. The world needs us.
It keeps shining our light. Yeah.
Absolutely. So before we go, I always ask my guests if they have three golden nuggets that they would like to leave the audience with. So I'm going to ask you to go ahead and give us your three golden nuggets.
Okay. So, the number one foundational thing of every day and every morning is gratitude. And I know we've learned that through Proctor's principles. And the reason why is because when you tap into gratitude, you're focusing on what is good and you're attracting what is good. You're becoming one with that frequency. So practice gratitude, especially in the morning. And the more you do it with intention, the more throughout your day, it's just naturally going to occur. And that's where the miracles start coming in. Number two, be authentic. Share your story, speak your truth. If you want to say no, say no. If you want to say yes, say yes. Be who you are. Stop hiding. Shine your light. Be bright. And number three, take inspired action. Don't wait. Don't wish. Don't hope. Become. Be one with your dream life. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Take imperfect action. That's perfect. Those are my three.
Well, that's wonderful. And I'm going to make sure that I have all of your information listed below this podcast so that we can have anybody contact you, connect with you, listen to your podcast, and, we'll all get connected somehow.
I appreciate this so much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for
Thank
having me.
you. Thank you. Don't forget to visit my website at luannhunt.ca, where you're going to find information about all of the past and upcoming Mindset Playground shows, along with signing up for a monthly newsletter where I can send you information from the playground and learn all about the programs that I have available to make you a better person. I can't wait to see you there.